Welcome to Every New Day. This is ENDtv, and we're trying something new. This is a new segment, which is kind of a way for me to express some things on my mind and to talk about some more maybe philosophical topics in relation to the nature of what's going on in the world today. So we're kind of running with the title at the moment called ENDosophy, but we'll see. So you're probably if you're watching this, and hopefully you are, you probably noticed that the world is going to shit all over the place. I mean, we've got the uncertainty currently with Europe building up its military and industrializing it. Particular European leaders who continue to want to provoke a great power, which is Russia, as well as penalizing another great power, China, through trade. The conflict in Ukraine still is ongoing. We see no end to that. And then, of course, there's the horror show, which is happening in the Middle East, particularly with Israel and Palestine. And those are just the main ones, you know. There's a lot more chaos ensuing. In Africa, we've had the situation in relation to the Congo, I believe. There's also the concerns with India and Pakistan, North Korea. I mean, the list goes on. And then meanwhile, of course, you've got now everybody talking about Trump and Elon Musk and what's happening in the US, which we'll probably cover that at some later stage, but there's people up in arms everywhere. They're rioting in France. There's riots and protests going on in Spain. There's the recent LA riots because of the immigration situation. Or sorry, not the immigration situation, but the ICE authorities basically catching illegal immigrants or people who have overstayed their visas, etc. It doesn't look too good, does it? Doesn't look too bright. But, you know, at the end of the day, there's always a new day. I would say that the main reason all of this stuff carries on and continues is because we give too much attention to it. This world that we currently exist in is somewhat of a pseudo simulation. And I'm not talking about the simulation theory about the universe. I've been thinking long and hard about it, and it's almost as if we've allowed ourselves to get carried away with the technology that we've invented. And it's completely overwhelmed us and consumed us to the point where, in some ways, we've become indentured, enslaved by this technology. What do I mean by that? Well, social media essentially was designed so you could keep in touch with your friends and your family, connect with other people across the world, and it was a great thing. But how sociable is social media? Nowadays, it's used primarily by businesses, corporations. It's essential for trade. It's essential for marketing. It's not very sociable, if you ask me. And most of the people posting anyway on whether it's X or Blue Sky or Truth Social or whatever heck other alternative there is to what Twitter used to be, I guess. They're posting because they're just reacting and expressing, and they want to be part of the whole ordeal. But the trouble is that we've created echo chambers, these bubbles. Most liberals, leftists have now moved to Blue Sky. You've got a lot of right-wingers still and conservatives now on X. And then you have all the MAGA people and the Trumpers on Truth Social. And I don't even know what the hell or who the heck uses Mastodon, but that's another one. But yeah, the more you post, you get a following, you get subscribers. But what does that amount to? What does it essentially amount to? Well, it amounts to monetization, because now you can monetize, right? With everything. And that may seem great, but the long run of all of this is, what does that achieve in terms of the greater goal for humanity? We're releasing some videos this week in relation not only to the EU militarization, for the EU defense, but the space race and AI. And, with all these things developing at this moment in time, you think that this is a great era to be in, because we are at the precipice of entering a new world, space exploration. Where we're seeing every day, every day I would say, yeah, probably, how we're improving with the technology. The same with AI, how beneficial AI can actually be, even though there's a lot of detractors to AI, obviously. Because once again, those who want to control things wish to impose things in a way that become detrimental. So I think there's a lot of good that can be said, but there's also the bad. And people are caught between these things. And for the moment, it just seems that everybody is swept into this, for want of a better term, a storm of chaos, where everyone just wants to push their opinions, be correct, be the right one. They don't care. We're just not thinking on a global scale anymore. We're not thinking in a bigger picture. We are thinking more so about ourselves in a very hyper-individualistic way. That's a bit sad, but it is kind of expected, especially when you consider the hell that we went through for 3 years. The lockdowns, you remember that? And not only that, but the countless of other things that these world governments and our world leaders have wrought upon us. And mind you, we supposedly voted some of these leaders in. I think what I'm trying to get at here is that we are in a very funny period, because they say history repeats itself, and it does, because humans are stupid in general. And we tend to always make the same mistakes, even after we try to learn and try to do better. But we do repeat the same mistakes. However, I think we are in a very special moment in history. There is a lot of opportunity and a potential entering into a new world. And yet we have the old world dragging us, shackling us. We are not unlike the slaves of the Roman Empire. And we all know what happened to the Roman Empire. After a while, it fell. And that's what people say. They say it a lot. But people forget the Holy Roman Empire replaced it. And then after the Holy Roman Empire, something else replaced that. And that's the trouble. We just keep allowing ourselves to get dragged by the old world. And that's part of the reason why there's many people I've talked to. And I've talked to many different types of diverse people from all ranges of society, all classes. And they've kind of already mentioned the same things, that something hasn't been feeling right for a while, that just seems off. And that's probably why most companies and corporations and all these media outlets are trying to sell you tragedy and anxiety and fear and hysteria to keep you in this perpetual death grip that you think the end is coming tomorrow. It's kind of ironic I say the end because we are ENDtv. But what the end stands for is that there's always every new day. And that's kind of like what we are trying to aim for and what I think people have forgotten. There's just so much internal politics and conflict going on. Take, for instance, the immigration case. Well, I heard something the other day which is quite interesting. Immigration is good, of course, but it also pisses off a lot of people. Not the legal immigration, obviously, but some of that also annoys people. Immigration allows for diversity of people, talent, skills, ideas to help change. Because if a country remains isolated, then obviously it can never evolve, it can never progress. And then we get North Korea. And I don't think anybody wants to live in that type of environment. But at the same time, you can't just open the doors and allow everybody in. The reason is you just don't have the infrastructure. You just don't have the financial capability. That's just the reality, because we're still living in a world where it's a globalized world, but it's not a world where, you have France, you have the US, you have Mexico, you have Germany, Japan. So they all function within that framework. They have a budget, they have a limitation. And as good as immigration can be, you can also not overwhelm the system and the services and everything. However, what I did here, this is what I was getting to, was that why not enable immigration, which is actively and has been a good thing, but also export the same things that we have, but to those other countries that don't do so well. See, that's the trouble. We don't do that. We have the mindset to just say, oh no, you're suffering over there, then come over here. But that doesn't really resolve anything. And then we think throwing a couple of bucks to a charity or to some aid is going to help. That, or we try to democratize the country, introduce democracy, because that's worked so well in the Middle East. No, what we should do is be more enterprising, be more innovative in how we can bring and export those types of services, those types of facilities over to those other countries that maybe don't have that ability. That requires some work and requires some communication, it requires working together, which is tough, especially in these times. But it could solve a lot of the problems. And then maybe you'd be surprised and find other people from other countries going to those countries. But this is part of the reason where people feel that, oh, we'll go to these nations because they're first world nations. They have money, they have opportunities and all that. But let me tell you something. They may come across that way, but they don't even, those nations or those countries themselves have a lot of problems. They don't even clean up their own house. Like we have still this issue of homelessness. That's never been challenged properly. We have an elderly population that is not being looked after or taken care of. Mind you, there are exceptions. Some countries, like Finland or Japan, they have a better system in terms of those things. But those are just very small exceptions. And then we have this increase in the mental health problem, which, by the way, is mostly inherent upon the Western world. This is a crisis that is going to hit us hard, that we don't even know how to handle. But saying that doesn't mean that it's the end of the world or that everything's going to be bad. It just means that we need to change the way we think, because we are still thinking in the old way. We still think that going to the ballot box, we still think voting makes a difference, and it does to some extent locally. But we also still think that people that we don't know anything about, that we just get some sort of report on, or maybe they look good, or they look interesting, or they happen to be a woman, or they happen to be the same skin color as I am, or the same religious background. That's the person that's going to lead us. That, my friends, doesn't work. It's stupid. We should be voting for people, first of all, who are competent, who can actually do the job. Not people who are career politicians. Because right now that's what we have. We have bureaucracy, career politicians, and in some ways they're just looking to make money for themselves. That's why they're invested with lobbyists and special interest groups and all this other crap. That's why I don't trust any politician. If I was to choose one, I wouldn't. But I can also understand that people who enter into politics, they want to do the right thing. And in the beginning, when you get into politics, yeah, sure, you have noble ideas and you want to, change the world. But you can't change the world, because this is the biggest lie that we've been told, that you can change the world. You, just you. You can't. You know why? Because you're talking about the world and you're not God. You're not God and you're not some super being. The only way to change the world, guess how it is? It's working together with everyone to change the world. And that means changing the system. The same old system that we've been using that clearly doesn't work because people are upset from both sides, from all sides. And some people have just given up and tapped out. So, yeah, I think I wanted to bring that up. The more I look at things, the more I see that things aren't getting resolved. And younger people are getting more frustrated, and they kind of don't feel like there's much hope. And the older people are just disappointed because they feel like everything they've worked for has gone to shit. But the trouble is, they make you all blame each other when you should be blaming them. And by them, I'm saying the system and the arbiters of the system, those who work and function within that system that is flawed. And that's when you know there's a problem. When everybody starts turning against each other. That is not normal, and that's not correct. We can find solutions to most of the problems, I believe, but that will only come about with competency, tolerance, and common sense. And not with this ridiculous football hooliganist rivalry or this obsession with ideology. I will sit down and tell you right now, I'll sit down with a communist and a capitalist. I'll even sit down with a fascist. An actual one, not just whatever. Because you cannot learn until you've actually talked to one of these people. And maybe you'd be surprised and you'd find that maybe in each of their different ideologies, there's maybe some good in there. Doesn't mean that you have to become an ideologue. But the trouble is we don't do that anymore. We just stay in our camps. And online, it's even gotten worse. So it becomes even more difficult. You know already, interestingly enough, I should say, we covered this in one of our early videos, but in regards to the non-transparency, specifically in regards to the EU and NGOs. Well, much like charities and all these other things, we see that the NGOs are non-functioning. They're actually regulated and they're actually in bed with governments. So the whole part of the G and the NGO kind of becomes redundant. So maybe instead put charity with actual people around you that you see. That's how you can make a change. Be the change you want to see by starting small and let the ripples affect. Be your own NGO. Don't be a governmental organization. And by that, I mean, don't join these parties. Don't align with the parties. You know what? Just be you and stop allowing your identity and your ideas, your thoughts, your opinions being taken over by all these different groups, because essentially it becomes groupthink and it's not healthy. So I think I'll end it with that. I don't know if this format works. We'll see. But this is just the first of maybe potentially more, where we make some kind of short videos where I talk directly and I just talk about what's on my mind. And yeah, I'd be interested to see what you comment down below, what you think. And even with saying all of this, I still hope that you stay strong, be safe, be smart, and think for yourself. Don't let people in any organization or media outlet try to sway you one way or the other. The only way you're going to make a difference is if you think differently. And that's to be yourself. This was Every New Day, and this was ENDtv. Thanks for tuning in.